Hi, my name is Anya, and this is my story. 1970, I gave birth to Tammy. Tammy was preemie, 2 pounds, 14 ounces, but that wasn't the problem. The problem is that she was missing a leg and some fingers. Anyway, that event in my life brought me into a whole community of people I had never known existed, and that was parents of children with disabilities. And it's been quite a journey. As you can see, it's been a wonderful, inspiring, exciting, sometimes painful, sometimes difficult, but overall, look at the result. We're all here celebrating her achievements and everything she's created. So I'm really proud.
Hello, I'm Dr. Jed, and this is my story. Lo and behold, along comes my first child, who is Tammy, who happens to have a congenital amputation of one of her legs, and sets me in a very different direction. With adding physical disability to my interest in special needs, and very pleased to show you that on my desk at all times was the following, and I subscribe to this now, and I do, and am honored to be part of this community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tammy, and this is my story. I was born 2 months early and lived in a NICU preemie unit for the first months of my life. I have led a life that's been all about showing people what I can do, as they often judge me and decide what I can't do. I am not alone. I am one of many people with visible and invisible disabilities living lives that are sometimes painful and sometimes pretty fabulous, and sometimes plain ordinary. And together, we are all part of humanity, which makes the world wonderful. Don't diss us, join us.
Hi, my name is Divya, and this is my story. I have a friend who has lupus, and she is my longest time friend from when we were in elementary school. And it's been really difficult because she was diagnosed back during COVID, which not only was she immunocompromised, but she had this whole new scary diagnosis to deal with. To the point where she was in a wheelchair, she had no mobility, she has rheumatoid arthritis. So it was really, really tough to see her go through that period of time. But just recently, she's been on a new medication regimen, and she's been working really, really hard to kind of give herself a bit of normalcy. And she's finally gotten out of her wheelchair, and she's growing out her hair, and it just looks great. So it's definitely possible to navigate life even if things are tough. All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Stephen Wong, and this is my story. When I was in college in the 1990s, I was tested for dyslexia and told that I did not have it. That, despite the fact that reading long passages in school books would often trigger panic attacks, difficulty reading aloud, and often transposing numbers when they're spoken while writing them down. I accepted that these were just challenges I had to manage. I am the CEO of a marketing agency in San Francisco, so I have to read regularly and find ebooks and e-readers very useful. It wasn't until the 2010s, when dyslexia-friendly fonts became widely available, that I realized I was able to speed read if I used those fonts. Now I use Open Dyslexic, Dyslexie, and Comic Sans, yes, really, when I need to read long passages and request accessible materials when possible.
Hi, I'm Katrina, and this is my story. I've had 4 heart attacks due to SCAD, which is spontaneous coronary artery dissection, but that's not all of my story. I'm also a wife, a mom, and a proud CEO of multiple companies. Don't diss us, join us.
My name is Kristen, and this is my story. My mother was diagnosed with dementia last fall. As a speech pathologist, I recognized the signs way earlier than that, but my family was a little bit in denial, and the doctors were misdiagnosing her all along the way. But we finally got this diagnosis. And while my mom has always been a little on the kooky side, it sort of tumbled the whole house down, for lack of a better term. And it's really accelerated since her diagnosis. So going out in public is worrisome for me and my family, because it's something that you can't tell just by looking at a person. And she may do erratic things. For example, getting up to hug and kiss a waitress and saying "I love you" to the waitress, so someone she's never met before, a stranger. Or, doing something similar but to a stranger's child. And it's a constant being on your toes to make sure that she's protected, and also the people around her can understand that she doesn't mean any harm by it. So it's just been a journey, and, navigating the systems to get her the support that she needs has been and continues to be a journey. But dementia is an insidious disability, and it's one that doesn't get better, but it is one that you can try to better manage.
Hi, my name is Everson, and this is my story. Growing up, born and raised in South Carolina, I realized just a few years ago that my mom, as strong as she is, suffers from, I would say, severe anxiety and a little bit of depression. The older I've actually gotten and been able to have adult conversations one-on-one with my mom, I've learned that has also rubbed off on me as well. And growing up, the only way you learn to kind of deal with that anxiety and kind of depression is to kind of fight. So I grew up a bad kid, was kicked out of some schools at a younger age. And the older I got, I learned to kind of channel that through sports. And be able to kind of, acknowledge the fact that, there's ways of being able to deal with it. But speaking with my mom, I realized that there were a lot of things growing up in the Deep South in the 60s. It was tough, but we learned from my mom and having conversations with her. We realized that she suffered. My brother is a licensed therapist, so having conversations with my mom, we realize where we have our faults and we suffer from it as well.
My name is Marnie Seif, and this is my story. My younger daughter was born with a congenital orthopedic problem that required surgery on both her legs to fix. And she had her first surgery when she was 12 years old at Children's Hospital in Boston. And she did not heal correctly from that surgery. And so we spent with her about a year where she was in a wheelchair or on crutches. And our family's life had to change to adapt to a child that couldn't take the school bus, that had to be driven to school, that had to be picked up, that couldn't participate in sports activities and other social activities. It was a very, very difficult time for her in middle school. And when the time came to have her second leg operated on, she also had complications. And so this ordeal went on for the better part of 2.5 years, where she was in a wheelchair or on crutches. And a couple things. The first was that we learned from that was, number one, you can feel very sorry for yourself, for your child, for what they're going through. But when you go to a place like Children's Hospital, you don't have to look very far to see people that have situations that are way worse than what you're dealing with. So it's very humbling. It puts things in perspective. The second thing that we learned was that thank God for the Americans with Disabilities Act and all the curb cuts and ramps that exist in this country, because it's so hard to navigate sidewalks and buildings without them. So we learned a lot from the experience. She's fine now. It was an ordeal that we got through, but it is a situation that has made me much more focused on the needs of those who are differently abled.
I am Bruce, and this is my story. When I was a young kid, I was a terrible stutterer. Kids picked on me, tortured me, laughed at me, made my life miserable. But when I was lucky enough, and hopefully good enough to be able to act, I never stuttered. It was a crazy thing. And yet, the next day at school, the teacher said, "We're going to read a book today, and we're going to go up and down the aisle." And I said, "Oh, I'm number 13. I'm so afraid. I'm so nervous. Please, the bell should ring so I don't have to speak." When she finally got to me, it was so scary. I was so nervous and so tense I could barely say a word. And yet that night, I was back on stage, acting like nothing ever happened, and like I never was a stutterer. I think the moral of my story is nothing is guaranteed in life, but don't let anything stop you. You're in control of your own destiny. You push forward. You only do good things. I can speak in public. I'm not afraid to do anything. Yeah, I have a relapse once in a while from PTSD, but for the most part, I speak the way I'm speaking here. And I tell you all, take care of yourself, believe in yourself, don't let anybody get you down.
My name is Bonnie, and this is my story. Late last year, I found out that I was gonna move my mom in with my family. We had just relocated to Portland, Oregon, and we realized that her diabetes has been causing her or accelerating her dementia. I never imagined that my mom would have dementia. I don't know why. My father suffered from depression my whole life, and that seemed to occupy the center of our family's attention. But when we had Thanksgiving dinner in 2024, it became apparent that the dementia had gotten pretty severe. My mom couldn't remember my youngest daughter's name. She had to ask her for it. And that was wild to me, to watch it happening in real time. We made the decision really quickly. Living with her, watching dementia unfold day to day has its frustrations, for sure. It's hard, it's exhausting. It's like having another child to take care of in the house. Keeping her diet regulated, all of her meds in order. I'm at the pharmacy every day. I'm cooking every meal, so we're housebound more or less. But also seeing my mom interact with my 12-year-old and my 16-year-old, and how much each of them have stepped up, and how much closer we all are as a family. And we've never laughed so much as we do now. I think because we've learned to hold the dementia lightly while holding my mom tightly. My guiltiest moments are the ones when I lose my cool. I'm too tired, I'm too exhausted, and those outbursts certainly do happen. But the most surprising thing is how much joy we are getting. Even my husband, and he has sacrificed so much to step in, and I do believe it has brought us closer together. So that is my DIS story.
Hi, my name is AJ. This is my story. I have a visual impairment, so without my glasses, I can't see far, or I can't even drive without my glasses.
Hi, my name is Michaela, and this is my story. Getting older is a privilege, a blessing, and not for sissies. I'm going to tell you a story about when I was down in southern Georgia someplace, and making long story short, I got out of a friend's car, I walked to go into the restaurant, and lo and behold, I fainted and found myself on the ground. Startled me. Well, it didn't startle me because I didn't know what happened. It scared the living daylights out of my family because they didn't know what was going on. I apparently came to pretty quickly and went into the restaurant, sat, they put a chair beside me so I wouldn't faint and keel over again, and I drank lots of water. That was good. Ate some protein. That was also good. And the takeaway, and the takeaway is I got challenged. That's not quite the right word, but confronted. That's also not the right word. Scolded. That's not the right word. But I got super strong messages that I scared the living daylights out of them. And bottom line was that I needed to be a truth teller. They made me promise that I would tell them what was going on for me and that I would keep them in the loop. I'm a private person and introverted and blessed with being healthy, etc., etc. But I was a good citizen. I called from Georgia back to California to my Kaiser person, and they did this and they did that and whatever. And then when I got home, I had this appointment. My nephew came with me because part of being a good patient, I don't like that word either, is having somebody who can listen and process and advocate for me. So I brought my nephew with me, and then it's a pain in the arse because I've had to go here for this and there for that and this for the other and someplace else for that. And all the time I have to tell the truth. I choose to tell the truth. I want them not to be afraid for me, and I want to be a good senior citizen. I want to talk about what's going on and be joyful as I ride the downward curve of my life. Thank you very, very much.
Hi, I'm Philip, and my story is that my favorite uncle, who actually taught me photography when I was 5, was in a wheelchair. He was disabled from the neck down, having jumped off a cliff in Hawaii when he was doing the same kind of diving that you see in Elvis movies, and unfortunately hit the bottom. And he lived to be England's longest living paraplegic. Sadly no longer with us, but I loved him dearly.
Hi, my name is Anya, and this is my story. I'm a psychologist, and because I had a child with a disability, I ended up veering towards working with parents and siblings of children with disabilities, and it's been quite a journey.
Hi, my name is Debbie, and this is my story. It's really about a close friend who's had a profound hearing problem in one ear since a young age. Over the years, I've learned to walk on the side of her better ear, and I've learned to pay attention to the challenges she has hearing when there are multiple or faraway speakers, or in a group, or at a restaurant, or at a party, or even at church. It's even more difficult when lots of people were masking. She's told me how hard it is for her to feel comfortable in so many places. When it's so loud, it's physically painful, or when she's isolated by not being able to understand the conversation. As we've aged, it's become even harder.
Hi, I'm Yoshi, and this is my story. As my parents age and wherever we go, I start thinking more and more about ramps and accessibility because their mobility is more limited nowadays.
Hi, my name is AJ. This is my story. I have allergies, so when I'm going out, I have to be careful with what I'm eating, and it prevents me from doing other things such as trying new foods and other things like that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Divya, and this is my story. Ever since I was very, very small, I have had a lot of tendencies. I've had a lot of symptoms of anxiety, of ADHD, but my parents never really felt that it was necessary for me to get those checked out. So I've kind of been going through my life without any coping mechanisms or any tools, and it has all hit ahead just recently. So finally, I'm in therapy. I'm making sure that I am taking care of my mental health so that I can be the best version of myself to me and to others around me. So, yeah.
Hi, my name is Kristen, and this is my story. I am a speech pathologist in New York City, and I work with non-speaking or minimally speaking autistic children. And a big thought that's always on my mind is that these children present as typical a lot of the time. And when they grow up, they will present as typical adults. The systems that are in place are so inaccessible and so hard to navigate. So I am constantly worried about them going out into the world once they leave school. I try in my therapy sessions to make sure that they are as independent communicators as they could possibly be, beyond asking for a cookie or a piece of candy, but more to be able to communicate their likes, their dislikes, communicate their feelings, communicate when they're feeling sick, communicate their dreams, what they want to get out of this world that we live in. So I'm just always thinking ahead and what could I possibly give them as a foundational skill that will serve them to advocate for themselves later on in life.
Hi, my name is Anya, and this is my story. In 1970, when I had my first child, lo and behold, Tammy was a preemie, 2 pounds, 14 ounces, and that brought me into the whole world of people in neonatal units and parents of children with preemie children.
Hi, my name is Masha, and this is my story. I was born in Russia, and first time I met a person with disabilities, I believe that was in Germany, and when I was 12. In the aqua park, I saw a woman. I don't remember exactly what was the disability, but I was in shock because I never saw somebody in my closest environment like this. Because usually in Russia, those people live separately. They are not goes to regular schools or something.
Hello, my name is Ali, and this is my story. At a young age, I was diagnosed with mild autism, And I'm very grateful that as I have gotten older, I have been able to thrive with therapeutic services, that I have been able to gain the knowledge and tools to use throughout my experience.
Hi, my name is Maya, and this is my story. I broke my foot twice in 1 year, and it was very difficult because I had to learn how to use the crutches, and it prevented me from doing a lot of things, and the boot helped a lot. And I also realized what it's like if you always have to use crutches on a daily basis. And I learned how to overcome being on crutches all the time, and that's my story.
Hola, soy Marité. Yo tengo dos situaciones. Primero empecé yo con dislexia, que fue un poco difícil para mí en la infancia, y ahora soy madrina de un joven con autismo severo. Él lo que ha hecho en nuestras vidas es cambiar un poquito y ver todas las perspectivas diferentes y los diferentes lenguajes y las diferentes formas de vivir. Y la verdad lo que más hizo es que el amor creció más en mí.
Bravo.
My name is Karim, and this is my story. I grew up and went to elementary school with someone with a disability. In those days, kids could be mean to anyone who was different. But Tammy Luchow, your strength made you equal in every way. You made us more compassionate to children with disabilities and handicaps. So thank you for sharing your disability with us. Thank you for educating us. And thank you for always striving for what you wanted despite your disability.
My name is Graciela, and this is my story. I have a son with severe autism, and it was really hard at the beginning, but I have get to know a new world of people and different language that I had to learn. And now I'm very grateful because I have learned so many different things that if it was not because of him, I will never get to see the other side of this world. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ihab, and this is my story. I work in art, and that reflects the people's mental health traumas, unhealed wounds that comes from PTSD, from experiences in their lives since childhood until present day.
My name is Gabby, and this is my story. My aunt was born with one leg, another leg in this art exhibit.
Hi, my name is Evan, and this is my story. I've been type 1 diabetic for 16 years of my life. Living with diabetes has always been a struggle, but something that I've learned to deal with, amongst many other things that other people learn to deal with too. And I just want everyone to know that they're not alone in their fight to succeed and to be the person they want to be, whether they find it difficult every day or not to deal with their demons.